Hi, good morning, and welcome to the ZP Vlog on Podcast. We like to do this every Sunday at about 8 a.m. London time, and it's really just a kind of wrap up from the news from this week. So last week we actually did an extra ZP Developer Zone webinar, and in that we covered somebody troubleshooting a pH sensor. They definitely weren't getting the kind of sensitivity that they really should be getting. We actually tested. I think for that webinar, we before we'd shipped them their sensors, we'd actually tested the batch anyway. So I was able to kind of show them what kind of data we got and what kind of data they got. I think what happens quite a lot is people sort of develop their own electronics and they get in a new sensor. And so, you've kind of got two things that are new to you. The sensors are probably new to you and the electronics are possibly new to you as well. And it doesn't mean that these two things kind of go together. So, I do give people advice about that. I mean, sometimes that kind of advice is I don't want to say strategic, it's definitely tactical, let's say. But, at ZP, we are quite good at that. It's people kind of, oh, something's not working, it must be this. And it's like, no, you've got to sort of think a little bit wider than that. So we did cover that. Something else that I also covered as well was also wire sensors. At ZP, we do have a lot of sensors that are in this kind of transdermal mode. So transdermal mode means that theoretically they can kind of go through the skin, reside in the interstitial fluid, and then people can kind of continuously monitor in those kind of applications. And then something else that we did discuss in an extra webinar last Sunday was actually circular electrodes. So they are very popular in the R&D community because effectively you can just go and pipette onto them, pipette a little micro drop, and the micro drop spreads out and sort of dries. So they're kind of easy to use and easy to handle. So we did do an extra, as I say, webinar last week on that. Something else that we also this week did an extra webinar on screen printed electrodes. So at the moment we're doing a webinar on Mondays on what's called Sense It All, on Tuesdays on Julie, on Wednesdays on Food Sense, on Thursdays on ZP Technology Stack in general, and then we have put in an extra webinar for Fridays on screen printed electrodes. So this week we did talk about, somebody wanted two working electrodes on a screen printed electrode. We don't have it, but I did add some extra value by sort of talking about how we do essentially multiplexing. I asked them a few questions online. They answered them, and then I kind of gave them some ideas in the webinar about that. Somebody else wanted a gold, platinum, and silver chloride screen printed electrode. At ZP, our mindsets are sort of different. That we do try to guide people towards solutions that are scalable and can be commercialized. And so I sort of talked to them about the costs of introducing having two noble metals on a screen printed electrode. I suppose when I put it like that, that might help explain that that's intrinsically could be quite expensive, not very scalable, but I explained it. And then I also gave them some solutions as to actually they could have an external counter electrode. So I'll wait for some feedback on that. Something else as well that sort of came up, one of our webinars, somebody was actually asking about the phosphate sensor, and they were right, because with our phosphate sensor, our data, as we increase the phosphate concentration, our data kind of goes in a increasingly positive direction, which is counterintuitive because it's a negative anion. Well, an anion is negative. And I explained, look, we just wired up the electrodes around the wrong way, where the auxiliary and working, we actually we had it wired up the wrong way around, but otherwise the signal was correct. It was just had the wrong sign on it. I also said to them, look, I put an extra data sheet up on that as well. So we did put some extra data around that. As I say, we do have our weekly webinar on Food Sense on every Wednesday. And this week was quite nice because actually we covered a different analyte this week, which was called ginger or gingerol, which is something we don't often discuss. And we also discussed something called TAS, total antioxidative status. This is really good for measuring shelf life of foods as well. So we do say to people, look, come to our webinars on Food Sense. Obviously we cover chili quite heavily, but at the same time now we've expanded into ginger, and now we've also expanded into total antioxidative status as well. Something else that we're covering quite a lot as well is that we've really kind of expanded our range of screen printed electrodes. As I say, we've kind of got 2 additional screen printed electrodes in the portfolio because people are very interested in circular electrodes. And so we did do a particular webinar this week on data science for biosensor developers. And I mean, in that webinar, it's kind of nice because we actually started with the old adage, rubbish in, rubbish out. So with data science, you need essentially good input, and that really starts with the screen printed electrode. So I think we were able to really emphasize that you do need good screen printed electrodes in order to have good quality of data, in order to then do data science upon that. And then some other news from ZP this week. Well, preparing for our webinar on Thursday. So every Thursday, I mean, we do our webinar for technical questions. If you have a technical question on ZP, there's a contact us button on the pages. Reach out to it, because you will find that questions that come in do get answered in our weekly webinars. And if it really gets so much material for a weekly webinar, we end up doing it on a Sunday as well. This is more for our kind of corporate clients, but we do on-site workshops where we construct generation 1 glucose sensors, generation 2 glucose sensors, ketone sensors. We do a lot of the theory. We do a lot of practical applications of voltammetry. So it's a very different kind of workshop in terms of we are not taking a very academic look at this and things that, we're actually taking a very practical and commercial perspective on this. And I think that can only really come from a company like us, who is constantly in the biosensor development, biosensor manufacturing role. Something else that I was quite excited about this week as well is we have this platform called Sense It All. Sense It All kind of says sensor to cloud, and we use that with clients to kind of get them to products and markets really swiftly. And we've increased it now by actually having a wearable application to that, which is a very elegant watch, which actually then attaches to our biosensors. So if you've got a wearable application like pH, lactate, glucose, you'll find that we're able to deliver essentially the electronics and the sensor in a very wearable format, including a watch format. So I just want to kind of do a quick summary. So at ZP, it was nice that somebody made a comment the other day online that said, "Well, you are extremely innovative," and I appreciate the comment, because I think it's correct. We are very innovative. We're also very commercially focused, and by that I mean, even with clients or advising, we're all the time thinking, can I really scale this for manufacturing? Can I really make a product out of this? And I think that makes us very different from others, because you'll go to them and say, "Oh, look, I want an electrode that's 2 working electrodes. One of them's platinum, one of them's gold, one of them's silver chloride. The counter electrode is carbon." And it's like, wow, okay, that's a complexity. So rather than kind of talking to people and trying to understand the motivations for this complexity, people say, "Oh, I'll just do it for you." But it actually leads them down the wrong route. But at ZP, I think we're different. We will talk to people, find out what the motivations are, and then advise them. Because even if that person doesn't take that idea or product to market, somebody reading the paper or somebody else in the group might want to. And so for science to really impact society, it has to be sustainable. But sustainable also means it's commercialized and it's able to add value to society. And when you add value to society, there's what's called a transfer of money as well. So that commercialization is really a sort of, I think we're the only people really who talk about this and say, okay, when we're giving you advice, it's because we want you one day to be successful in a business. And that said, I'll wrap up from this week. If you've got any questions of ZP, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have, as I say, about 5 webinars a week. We have the large large live streaming webinars once a month as well on all our products. And so there's plenty of places to find and meet us. And just as a quick last comment, we are going to Medica this week. So Medica is a large medical diagnostics conference. Pre-COVID, there were like 150,000 people going. There's like 5,000 exhibitors. So reach out to us if you want to meet us at Medica. Okay, thanks very much.